Faye, you could just real quickly give us some experience with what it's the difference like from you coming from a non-union environment to a union environment.
Well, before I worked at Kaiser, I worked in a skilled nursing facility, even though it was still a union. It was still SEIU-UHW at the time. But it was like such a big difference from being in a union, being in the union at Kaiser. It just seemed like maybe they're more organized there. Maybe, I'm not quite sure. But when I was in skilled nursing, one of the situations that really resonated with me that I remember vividly to this day is I'd worked there 3 years, and I worked night shift, so I would read the contract at night that I had from the union, and I'd read the contract that I had from the company, right? And so in the company contract, it says you get a raise after your first year, and you get an additional raise after your third year. But I noticed that was not reflecting on my checks. And so, you know, I spoke to the manager at the time, and I was like, yeah, I don't see by then it was 3 years. So I didn't see the annual raise, and I didn't speak up at the 1 year because I was like new to working in a union. I wasn't quite sure like the waters I could tread, like so I was kind of tippy-toeing, right? And so then by 3 years, I'm like, look, I know I'm supposed to have that raise. Like, I've read the contract. Why are we playing these games? So I went to HR, and the HR person at the time, she's, you know, agreed with the manager. Oh no, talk to your union, go back to your union. I'm like, but I'm reading the contract that's you guys literally wrote. Like, I could read. Like, it says I'm supposed to get a raise year and 3 year. And so that HR person left, and like I think like 6 months later, I said, well, let me go talk to the new HR person. So I sat down with that HR person, and she, you know, looked at the paperwork I showed her, and she was like, you know what, you're right. We are supposed to give you an annual raise in the 3 years, so we'll go ahead and back pay you. So when they back paid me, I got like almost $3,000 in back pay, which was like amazing working at Skilled when I was only making like $14, $50 an hour. That made a huge difference for me to get that back pay. And then of course my coworkers, they were like, oh, how did you do that? So I helped them do the paperwork. So the coworkers get their annual and 3 year, and then there was a 5 year. There were some people that were supposed to get a 5 year raise, and they were able to get that. And then oddly enough, when people would have issues there, like, and they had to meet with management, they would ask like, oh, Faye, can you come with me? I have to go talk to the manager. And I thought it was just because like some of the people there had language barriers. I was like, maybe they just want someone to explain things or something, right? Like in management HR, they said, well, aren't you a steward? And I was like, no, not technically. But the union got whiff of it real quick, and they hurried to put me in steward training. And that's literally how I became a steward. I was like already doing the work. I just didn't know, like, it was a whole process of becoming a steward. So I was already doing the work just to help people, but then I became like official steward. So I was glad that I was persistent about it. But like I said, I was still worried because I was like, oh, they might fire me for trying to like, you know, put waves in the ocean, you know, but I still took that chance, and I'm glad I did.
No, you know, it's interesting to hear you talk about even the difference between the union at Kaiser versus the union at a single nursing home, you know, and then you could compare that to a non-union facility. But I think for a lot of our members at Kaiser, it's easy to forget, because this is just our daily lived experience, that this is a big organization. And, you know, one of the things people may or may not realize, there's 3 major sets of contract negotiations in America going on this summer. The largest is between the Teamsters and UPS. And that contract covers over 300,000 people. It's going to expire at the end of the summer. That's actually the largest contract in America. The third largest is between the auto workers, General Motors, Ford, and what used to be Chrysler, different name now. And that covers about 60,000 people. And then there's our negotiations between the coalition and Kaiser. This is actually the second biggest set of contract negotiations going on anywhere in America. And, you know, because of just the size and the nature of the partnership and the nature of our union, I think there's a lot of unique features that really distinguish. And one of the things that I've talked to members a lot about, speaking of the union difference, you know, going back to the pandemic, and I think people remember that we were able to negotiate child care benefits for UHW members. We were able to negotiate enhanced COVID benefits. We were able to negotiate housing benefits. And one of the things that I think it's important that we all remember is that out of our 57,000 members, over 42,000 members used at least one of those benefits. Some used all three. And the value of those was over $200 million. None of that is in the contract. That's the union difference too. And we also succeeded in getting that for everyone across Kaiser, but we negotiated that with Kaiser. And that's something, 42,000 people, child care, sick leave,
that's amazing.
Housing benefits if they didn't want to expose their families, and and that's just something that we did in the course of everything else, and all kinds of activity going on all the time, and just always looking for opportunities. And I know there's always more to be done, there's always ways to improve, but I think that we have created something, and we have a system in place where we're able to make a lot of progress, and it's up to us to make sure we communicate to people how these things don't just happen. They don't just there's a reason that all of that happens. So
I think that's epic. On top of the great contract, we were able to acquire more great things that we needed during a pandemic, and that's what I love about our union. We're constantly evolving. We're not just like staying in one place or in one zone. We're constantly like, how can we make it better for this group? How can we make it better for that group? And that's what I love about it. I really do. Yeah.
And if I can go back to the three additional benefits that we were able to acquire, I'm one of that 42,000 that actually used the COVID sick leave. Right? I've gotten COVID twice, so I was able to use that, so I didn't have to use my sick leave. So I thank everyone that participating in making this happen, because it truly has been a wonderful additional benefit for me and my family.
Yeah. No, and for lots and lots of people. And frankly, the other thing, and I know people know this because a little bit over half of our members work at Kaiser, the balance work in hospitals all across the state. Because of the size of the union at Kaiser, we're able to achieve things that we try to achieve in other places, but we have more success here at Kaiser than we have at other places. And that child care benefit, we did succeed in getting the COVID benefits at other institutions and other employers, but that child care benefit was something we were only successful in getting done at Kaiser. And that's, that, if memory serves, I think that was something like $400 a week. And that was just a huge thing. And everybody was struggling with the realities of how do I care for my kids who aren't going to school anymore, right? That all just got dumped on people. So, it's good to think back about that and to learn from the past. And now our job is to figure out what do we do in this set of negotiations to continue to extend the progress and make sure that we're looking for the next set of opportunities for what we can do for people.
Absolutely. And that also reminds me of UHW. We're all about uplifting the community. We're all about helping others. Well, part of the mission is that of the union in general is to make sure that the wages and benefits that affect all of our members. But we're also doing more so than that. What current bills that we have in place can you speak on, Dave, that we're working on now?
Well, just this week in the state legislature, we succeeded in the state Senate in getting the $25 an hour minimum wage bill successfully voted out of the Senate. It's now going to go to the California Assembly. And this is something, that affects a portion of our members, particularly in Southern California. It is true that in Northern California, wages are higher for a whole set of reasons than they are in Southern California on average across healthcare. But this is a big deal, and I think in particular at Kaiser, this has a big effect on EVS workers, particularly in Southern California, medical assistants, particularly in Southern California, but then healthcare workers generally. And we, in another part of what we do, we recently won an election in San Diego for 1,500 people at a hospital called Sharp Grossmont. And I've been down there a few times. We're getting ready to negotiate the contract. But one of the things that was shocking, and it took about 10 minutes to learn this, is at that hospital in San Diego, there's lots of workers who live in Tijuana because of the cost of housing.
Wow.
They have to live in Tijuana because they can't afford rents in San Diego. They cross the border, some of them every day, just to be able to make their lives work. And so when we were able to raise the minimum wage across the state, you know, it helps all kinds of people, mostly non-union people, but we do believe in this organization that, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats, and we cannot, you know, if you take the view, and sometimes in the past unions have done this, that it's got to all be just about the union members, eventually you just create too much of a distance between the union folks and the non-union folks. And so we believe fundamentally that it's important that we act in the best interest of everybody. Okay. And it's great when that helps us, but it's also important that we bring others along and continue to do all the kinds of work. But just this week we were successful in the state Senate. You know, people just got their checks on the staffing retention bonuses. That was something we got done in the state budget. And that affected 700,000 healthcare workers and put $1.8 billion directly into people's pockets because of the work that everybody in our organization did. And, you know, it's, again, looking all the time for opportunities out there.
And Faye, recently I heard that you had the ability to speak on SB 525, and you told a very compelling story. Would you like to share that story with us?
Sure. Yeah, I went to the California Democratic Party convention over the past weekend, and that was an awesome experience. I was able to go as a delegate for Senator Nancy Skinner. Love her, she's amazing, she does great work. And we went and we spoke out in support of SB 525. It was about 39 delegates from our group there, and we each spoke out about it. And when I went to the podium to go speak, I was like, you know, I was going to keep it like, you know, get the information out and, you know, but keep it cute, keep it cool. But I don't know, I got to the podium and I don't know what happened. It's just like all the experiences I've had, meeting people in SoCal, making $17, $18, $19 an hour, something just took over, and I just like, I let them have it. I did, you know. I expressed my experience of working in the ICU during the pandemic and how difficult that was, and how healthcare workers still stayed and helped and take care of the patients. I explained to them that you have people making, like I said, $17 and $19 an hour, working 2 or 3 jobs. They're not able to go home and be back to work. They're like sleeping in their cars, waking up, going to another shift. Some are homeless, you know, and they leave work, go to a tent, come back, you know, they get showers where they can, you know, like it's just, it was so emotional, but it was information I needed to know, because they're not going to hear these stories unless we share them. They're not going to know. The average patient doesn't know how difficult we work. Like if you work a 16-hour shift, like I can't do a 16-hour shift. I've tried, and by hour 14 or 15, my brain just checks out. Like it's just not there. So I don't do a whole lot of overtime like that. But it was important for me to express the concern and need for the healthcare workers in the state of California, that they deserve a livable wage. They deserve to have a roof over their head, like basic necessities. They're not like, we're not asking, like, we're not trying to make them millionaires. No, basic necessities to be able to continue to provide great health care for the passion that they have for the patients, the care they have for taking care of the patients. That's important. They needed to hear that. And that's what I wanted to express that day. That's what I did.
I heard you did a fantastic job in expressing yourself, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing
your
story.
I'm glad I could do it.
Great, thank you so much. And you know, as you're talking about how things happen, progress, you know, we were in that pandemic, right, where we had COVID. During the tech industry, there were layoffs, right, that happened. Dave, what was your experience there during those troubling times there? Any layoffs or attempts to lay off that you were aware of?
Let me take a half a step back. I think it's important, again, you know, we have the Earned Income Security Agreement at Kaiser, and it really does provide a tool and a safety net for members that even if there's a proposal to eliminate jobs or ultimately lay people off, we have the right to negotiate, we have the right to make sure people land on their feet at the same, you know, at the same level of pay. It's not uncommon that people actually end up in positions that pay more money when we're faced with those kinds of things, which is very different than what, you know, people in non-union settings face.